What is up, guys? Welcome to a new video. We're going to be looking at the best champions at climbing right now for every single role. Timestamps and the champions are listed in the description, but let's jump into it. By the way, I've got Haste in on the 500k giveaway to give even more RP away, so that should be pretty good news if you love RP. I've been playing with some friends on NA recently, and it depends on the day, but sometimes it actually lowers my ping by like 20 or 25. And the better thing for me actually though is it keeps it steady, so I don't get like random spikes up and down a lot. It is in free beta though. It works for Overwatch if you're playing that new update or league in North America, so give it a go. We're going to work our way down the map today, starting with our top laners. So number one is going to be Renekton. I personally think he is the most well-rounded top laner to play at the moment and to climb with, at least up to diamond. He is the typical bruiser, right? Like, he's harder to deal with in team fights, but he still does a lot of damage. The build would be like Black Cleaver or Titanic, Sterix, and Guardian Angel is probably better third. By the way, like, building tanky third doesn't really do that much for Renekton. You've got the fervor, which you stack really fast with your W. It feeds into your AD ratios on your abilities as well, so it's a lot of damage even later into the game. Your ultimate is also underrated. Like, it deals 1800 damage over 15 seconds per person. That is actually ridiculous. That's obviously on top of like all the health and stuff he gets with it, but the main thing really is lane pressure. You demolish most lane matchups and you get a really big lead from it, which you use that gold to get enough damage to get into team fights. You're mobile kind of with your E, like your double dash, you have your heal, your stun, your armor shred, which is 35% by the way with his E, which is pretty crazy with a Black Cleaver, and extra survivability. We've seen my number two in the LCS a little bit. Fizz is a bloody nightmare top lane right now to play against. Korea is playing this a ton already as well. It's just as good over here though, especially with Ignite and TP. If you've ever played mid lane Fizz and thought, you know, I wish I could do this much damage but also be tanky, well, this is kind of what that does. Trinity Force into Sunfire Visage is the most common, but Trinity into Blade is super good at lower ranks as well. Like, it's a proper carry build. The pick basically revolves around your W damage, and it's so strong right now, even after the rework to it as well. It's one of those picks that can do a lot of damage, is pretty tanky but also mobile. It means you can dodge around, avoiding damage as well as taking damage, so it's even harder to kill a tank. Main things, you're a lane bully. Your ultimate is impossible for most top laners to dodge. They don't really have built-in mobility. Think of like Darius, Yasuo for example. You're able to kill squishy and tanky targets, doesn't really matter. The Ignite gives you lane advantage. TP ganks are good, and it's definitely like an early to mid game pick. We're seeing a rise of Tryndamere a lot more recently, so he's my one to watch for this patch. He's very reliable, actually like good at every single stage of the game. Early he can cheese kills with crit, mid game he can split push, late game he can do whatever he really wants and two-shot people. The Blade and the Fervor buffs recently were the mostly why he's coming back up. Actually both help his early and late game massively. Now moving on to the jungle, so Ivan is probably still the best overall. He's just an absolute powerhouse at the moment. He does everything way too well. He's got a ridiculous win rate as well. Skipping over him though, Amumu has his new true damage passive, which is pretty broken in my opinion, and places him number one. It's buffing his damage plus his team's damage, and you know, actually the fun fact is it's not actually true damage. It's really weird, and I'm guessing why I made a mistake, but it's 15% of the damage after magic resist is accounted for, which is actually just 15% bonus magic damage, not 15% true damage. In my opinion, Cinder into tank or Leandries and Rylers and stuff is the best way to go. Like, it gives you kind of the damage you need, but also the tanky stats. It's like Courage of the Colossus, right? And defensive items. You don't die that easily at all, but you do still kill stuff, and that's pretty unlucky for the other team. In my opinion, he's one of the best late game junglers in the game. At the moment, the team fight impact is insane. You can engage, lock everybody down. You are a threat as well, so you have to be focused, but you're hard to kill. He is always going to be better at lower ranks in my opinion, but he's still good higher up at the moment. You can invade this guy early and set him behind, but if you don't do that, he's always going to be strong. Now, I think Kha'Zix is probably the best damage jungler left, except maybe Graves, but I mention him all the time, so we're going to skip that one. It's back to more bruisery kind of Kha'Zix, like Black Cleaver, more about Mortius, maybe a Ghost Spade as well, but it's not as amazing anymore. Everyone keeps getting nerfed, basically, like, except Kha'Zix. He's not been hit as hard. Not as hard as Rengar anyway, poor guy. You have that real, like, carry potential, the early pressure, which is really good, and you can actually gank as well. Like, late game, at least mid game, actually, you're still strong. Your damage is high enough to burst still, and you have your ultimate stealth to survive as well. The main thing really is you're one of the best damage junglers left that hasn't been nerfed into the ground completely. You can actually carry, and you're decent early, mid, and late game. Fiddlesticks is my up-and-coming pick this patch, though. We've seen him a lot more since the changes, and he's got a really, really good late game. The ultimate is like a game changer, even if you're behind. People are not used to playing against that just yet either, so this is going to be a better pick for the next like couple of patches while people adjust to it, but eventually when they realize not to fight when Fiddlesticks is out of vision, you're probably going to have the win rate drop again. Mid lane, I still think Ahri is on top. I know you guys hate me for saying this. Maybe she's not completely overpowered, but she is just the most well-rounded mage you can actually play at the moment. item. She's good in every single game and she has a really solid win rate. Now after Ahri, I think LeBlanc is moving up to the top spot because of the Gunblade build, which I think is tomorrow's video actually, so keep an eye on that. Basically this brings her back to one-shot territory, which lets her do her job and carry super hard. At higher ranks right now, she is destroying people with this build. Her 1-2 item spike is much better with this new build, and late game she's not as bad either. It gives her a higher chance of killing someone, which can be harder when they have like some magic resist and stuff like that. You have decent matchups right now with mages everywhere as well. I think she's actually in a really good spot at the moment. Main things though, more healing from Gunblade. It helps a lot actually. It finally gives you some sustain. Your burst is higher now, and the lane phase actually you can get super far ahead. Roaming has always been really good, but you're a hard carry mid laner. So number 2 is actually going to be Fizz as well. In general, this champion is just so strong. Like not only top lane like before, but mid lane as well. This is like peaking a top 5 win rate in most regions at the moment, mainly from the fact that his burst in early game is just way too strong. You're really like a 1v5 champion though. You get ahead, which is not that hard to do, get into that in a second, and you'll keep increasing that lead over and over. The thing is, some champions actually struggle to extend a lead if they get one. Not Fizz though, it's the opposite. You ultimate to blow the enemy Lux's flash, for example, right? Then next time she cannot dodge it, so she's going to die. You keep doing that for 5 minutes with the cooldown down, then you run around to other lanes and do the same. Fizz's base damage is so insanely high, which is why top lane works as well, by the way. Once he gets that Lichbane or Proto Belt, whatever his first item is, he can really take off and grow his lead as well. Now Caitlyn is the one to watch out for, the typical anti-mage, and mages are everywhere right now, so it makes sense. I was right about the recent buffs as well. They weren't that big, but he was good anyway. You just kind of needed a nudge to play him. He's able to one-shot people quite easily, especially mid to late game. He is a scaling late game champion. Do not forget that. He's just much better late game, but still able to do work early against weaker, more passive lanes, which we do have quite a lot of, like a Lux, for example. Now moving into the bot lane, Lucian. It's back to Lucian meta, boys. I love Lucian, and even I am sick of it at this point, honestly. He's played in what's close to like 50% of games right now, and he still has one of the highest win rates as well, which is ridiculous. It's probably going to change with the mid-season update, but for now and the next patch at least, he's going to be the best you can play. Blade, Black Cleaver, Fervor together is seriously so strong. The synergy is amazing. You have a lifesteal and a ton of damage. He's also mobile. He's a lane bully, so he gets himself ahead. He uses that gold to have a massive mid-game power spike, which is very hard to deal with, and he's even hard to kill with Blade kiting, healing, and the Cleaver health. The main thing really is he's just so good in the lane phase and mid-game. He's super mobile. He's high damage. He's punishing because of his ultimate and dash to fight. If you misstep or get too close as an enemy AD carry, Lucian is going to kill you for it, but he does fall off a little bit late game with his short range, so that at least there is that. Caitlyn's going to be my number 2 for the most well-rounded AD you can play, so that is why I'm going to put her second. She's able to do decently well in the lane phase, especially if she doesn't get ganked, but not ganking Caitlyn is kind of like asking to get screwed, to be honest. She's not very easy to gank either. She can net and trap to get away, but if you don't, she AFK pushes, she takes the tower, pokes the enemy AD, and denies CS, like unless you can fight them. Late game, her high range and headshots really kick in. She's insane. Like headshots, by the way, scale really well into the game, but you could also get them from 3 sources to remember, like your normal passive, your traps, and also your net. It deals 50% of your bonus physical damage as flat anyway, which is good scaling, but it's increased by your Infinity Edge and your crit chance as well, so it's a ton of damage. Main thing really with Caitlyn, she's very good at every stage of the game. Mid game is average, but it's still okay. Your lane phase you can punish, late game you just right click. You're safe and you have utility as well as the damage. My one to watch out for right now though is going to actually be Vayne for this patch. She's not amazing, but she is pretty good. Now Lucian is a crap matchup, so if you ban him, you're set for a decent game, to be honest, most of the time anyway. You're one of the very few ADs right now left who can actually get absolutely railed in the lane phase, like super crushed, and still carry mid to late game when she gets a few items. The game is going longer now, gives you more chance to recover, more chance to carry. You have the stealth and stun to survive, plus more than enough damage. Support wise, I think Lulu is probably the most well-rounded at the moment because of their synergy with AD carries and items like Sensor as well, but we're going to skip over her. Sona after Lulu is probably the best and also easiest support to play, but we're going to go over 2 types of support, so the defensive one and also an aggressive one. Sona obviously is the defensive one, but she actually has a lot of damage just from pressing her Q and using a power cord. Like trading with the enemy AD actually is not that bad, honestly, if you back out after. You have the heal to recover as well from that trade. You keep your AD alive. Like legit, you're kind of the best support to play with if you're a bad AD player. Your ultimate can also set up a lot of plays to protect as well, which means you aren't purely defensive, so you can actually impact the game. Team fights are insane with your aura spam and your synergy with items. I'm talking mostly like Sensor and Locket and Redemption. The main thing really is you're a lane bully who also heals, which is very hard to play against, but it also helps a good AD do more and a bad AD carry survive. Blitzcrank, honestly, I think is so good right now, even though he's so like hit and miss because you either hit or miss your hook. That was not deliberate. That was awful. I'm sorry. In general, most supports and AD carries you play versus are good hook targets, so you hit either of them and you can burst them down. You do a lot of damage, you have like synergy with Lucian, Ezreal, and Caitlyn, which is really important because they're the 3 most popular AD carries. All 3 of them have something special that makes them work better. Like Caitlyn, for example, can trap underneath you when you throw a hook and it's a guaranteed root and headshot, stuff like that. Even in teamfights, there are not as many tanks anymore, so hooking the enemy top laner, for example, is a good thing instead of bringing in like a Maokai or something. Main things really, you're very good at getting kills in the lane phase, you're good at catching people mid-game, and probably the best carry support you can play. Bard recently got some buffs to his passive, and that is why he's so underrated in my opinion, my one to watch. It actually makes a massive difference to his damage, especially late game, which is why I think it helped him out so much. Like, you don't really offer a ton otherwise, really. Your stun is really good for the lane phase with an aggressive AD like Lucian or Caitlyn or something like that can set up a few kills. You also supply a lot of damage, but your ultimate is pretty useless until you get to mid-game where you can pick people off and catch these like immobile ADs and mid laners who don't have escapes. I hope you enjoyed the video. I look up a lot of different stats for videos like this to back everything up, but it is just my opinion overall. So let me know if you agree or not below, and for now, let's go to the robots.